morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where in the world you're signing in from. It did look like a bit of a global audience today, so I will speak to multiple time zones. It's my pleasure today to introduce Jeff Ackert, the President, CEO, and Director of Cascade Copper. How are you today, Jeff?
Romeo, I'm great. Thanks for having me today.
Awesome. And today's brief event, Jeff's going to be going over the details of Cascade's current financing, and ultimately describing the Maiden drill program at Rogers Creek and the intended use of said financing. I'm then going to pose some questions that investors have posed in advance via email, followed by questions from the live audience, which, while we welcome, we do encourage the live and recorded viewers of this event to book a meeting directly with Jeff following the event through our system. Today's event is, of course, being recorded. The replay will be available later today and sent to everybody who registered and then posted online for you to view. So without further ado, I'll throw it to Jeff to get started.
Thanks, Romeo, and welcome everybody for joining us today. It's my pleasure to be able to tell you about, first of all, the company, Cascade Copper. We're a relatively new company. We just listed last year in April on the CSE under the ticker symbol CASC. And we've been growing ever since. We did $1 million financing on our IPO. We were able to get in and do quite a bit of work last year on 3 of our projects, and we acquired 2 new projects later in 2023. But coming to 2024, we want to get on the ground and do some drilling, hence the flow-through financing that we've announced last week. And so I'd like to talk a little bit about the financing and the terms of the financing, and then we'll get into the project, the Rogers Creek project, and tell you why we're excited about getting on the ground and drilling there. So first of all, you can go through the forward-looking statements. Obviously, we will have some during the presentation today. Next slide will show just a quick overview of our share structure. As I said, we're a fairly new company, and as you can see, we've only got 33 million shares outstanding right at the moment, and a few warrants as well. Next slide will give us some details of what we're looking for in the financing. And it's basically a bit of a hybrid, so we're getting some flow-through and some non-flow-through funds. The flow-through will be used for, as you can see at the bottom there, for drilling, primarily at Rogers Creek and also in Ontario at our Centerfire project. But the focus of today's talk will be telling you why we want to drill at Rogers Creek. So the flow-through share is a unit share, unit offering, and it includes a half warrant. So the unit is at 7 cents. The half warrant is exercisable at 10 cents for up to 24 months. The non-flow-through unit is a 5 cent unit, and it also has a half warrant at 10 cents for 24 months. The amount we're raising is 500,000, and a combination of flow-through and non-flow-through. We haven't set the limits on that yet, but we're happy to fill most of that with flow-through funding. And as you can see at the bottom, the use of proceeds will be used for drilling at Rogers Creek, and that's in British Columbia. We do plan to do around 1,200 meters of drilling there, probably 2 to 3 holes, and I'll show you a little bit more about where we're going to be drilling. And then at Centerfire, which is it's a bit of a younger project. It has had some historic work done on it. And we're confident that we can pop a few holes in there, maybe 1,000 meters, and get some decent results to follow up on some of the work that has been done in the past. And then a little bit of the hard dollar will be used for general corporate expenses. So let's go to the next slide, Romeo. Just to give your viewers and listeners, where are we located? Well, we're in British Columbia. Rogers Creek, you can see, is sort of upper center portion of that map. We do have other projects in BC in this area, but Rogers Creek is centrally located in what we call the Cascade Magmatic Arc. And I won't get into too much of the geology here, but it is a belt of rock, Miocene, Cretaceous to Miocene age. And what's quite appealing about this belt is the fact that there are quite a number of very large copper porphyry deposits in that sector. You can see at the top, this Taseko has New Prosperity, large resource further down, coming south, Giant Copper, Glacier Peak, Middle Fork, and Margaret. And Glacier Peak, you can see in Washington State, has a huge deposit, 1.7 billion tons. And then I've included a couple onto the eastern side of the belt just to show you what kind of grade and tonnage is being mined in British Columbia, in this particular area of British Columbia. So you can see Tex Highland Valley Copper. It's a huge resource. And with a copper grade of 0.28%, reserve is 0.3%. So those are the numbers you have to keep in mind when thinking about copper deposits in this part of British Columbia. They can be that low. Again, Copper Mountain 0.22 with a reserve of 0.24% copper. So that's just a snapshot of what is being mined in the province these days. All right, Romeo, we can go to the next slide, and I'll tell people just a little bit about why we're so excited about this particular project and this particular target. And now this image is basically a see-through three-dimensional rendition of the topography, which you can see is hinted in the background with the sort of the light brown and blue colors. Valley is sort of right in the mid-central, and it's going left to right. As you go up the mountain, the brown lines represent the drill roads. So we're able to actually take our drill in here, drive it in, put it on a drill road or on a forestry access road, and drill the targets right from there. So cost-effective drilling. But what I'd like you to focus on is the red polygons that you see within the center part of that image. And those red polygons represent induced polarization chargeability anomalies. Well, what is that? Well, what that is the higher concentration of sulfide mineralization. And that sulfide mineralization could be pyrite, chalcopyrite, and bornite. And we think it's probably a combination of all three of those. And ideally, if it contains a lot of bornite, then we're off to the races. But what we're targeting is the center part of those chargeability anomalies. We've done a lot of work on the surface here. We've got surface geochemistry. We've got surface alteration mapping with hyperspectral analysis. And we've done compiled at least some older drill holes. And they're in this image as well, but you can see that they're off to the side. So the drilling that was done in the past didn't have the benefit of having this IP or even the magnetics that we have now. So they were kind of going a little shooting by the hip and looking at surface mineralization, drilling underneath that. They did hit anomalous copper and gold values, but they didn't get into the center of the system. And this is what we're drilling. This is what we're quite excited about going after. So again, the science that has been done on this is quite a bit. We've done alteration mapping, geochemistry mapping. We've done the inversion of the magnetics and the IP geophysics. And if we look at the next slide, Romeo, we can see, again, another rendition in 3 dimensions. But what we've done is we've cut away through the valley in a horizontal plane, and we've cut down from the top through the mountain. And it shows the magnetic profile, the inversions of the magnetics that tell us where the high mag is, which is the hotter, pinker colors, and the low mag, which is the colder colors, or the blue and green colors. And you'll see right beneath that sort of hovering section of IP chargeability that there's a very large magnetic low anomaly, which is what you want to see in a porphyry system. So the combination of the IP plus the mag plus the surface numbers that we were getting, like 10s and 20s of grams of gold in some of the surface samples, 2 to 3% copper, even a little bit of silver in the system. So it's all pointing to this one area. So that's why we're quite excited about getting in and drilling this project. So I think we can go to the next slide here, and it's basically, not only is it a good project that we're working on, but you've also got to look at the management and who's running the company. And I'd like to say that we've got a pretty good team going here. Myself, I've been a geologist running public companies for quite a number of years. I'd say probably since the late 1990s in the public space, a geologist since early 1980s. Spent a lot of time in Africa and in Canada. Made some great discoveries in the gold sector in Africa. Shannon has been involved in exploration and mining in the Sudbury area, as well as copper porphyry systems in Peru and Jamaica. Yannicka is our CFO, and Darcy and Allison are both directors that bring quite a bit to the company as well. So the next slide is just basically contacts for our team. And please, if anybody has any questions or wants to have a one-on-one, please sign up, and I'd love to chat with you. So Romeo, I think that's a quick overview of what we're doing and what we're raising. And if there are any questions at this point, I'd be happy to answer.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Now, I know there were some questions that came in from registrants to the event by email, so I will run through those. And for those who are in the live audience, appreciate your time, obviously, and feel free to ask questions here. But you're also welcome to book a meeting with Jeff through our system, and that goes for if you're watching the recording as well. You can book it directly through our system. But let me get to those email questions. Somebody who's looking for a bit of a history lesson, if you don't mind, Jeff.
Okay.
They're asking if you could explain the work carried out in the 90s and the evolution of this project in terms of ownership and work done by each party.
Yeah, well, actually, I don't think it goes back as far as the 1990s, but certainly the 2010s, 2009s, 2010s, and it's a quick story. Basically, they were building the roads for the forestry industry, and there was a operator that was on the backhoe, and he was digging away at the side of a mountain to make a road, and out popped some green copper oxide. So he basically kind of thought, well, I'm a little bit of a prospector too. So he went and sampled it, came back some very good numbers. And he said, okay, now what am I going to do? So he ended up getting in touch with a company in Sudbury. And this is sort of a Shannon Baird kind of connection, a company called Walbridge Mining. And your listeners may have heard of Walbridge. They were quite busy in Sudbury doing a lot of work. So they looked at it and they sent a guy out, and the guy said, yeah, this is real. This is, obviously a porphyry system that's just being uncovered and never been found before. So Walbridge came in and did some early work and did some early drilling. Then they spun it out into a company called Miocene Metals. Miocene Metals then raised quite a bit of flow-through money at the time. This is probably 2010, 2011. And then did some more drilling and did some more work on surface and started the IP process. As I said, they did a lot of drilling first and then looked at some of the geophysics afterwards. So they were in the right area, but they didn't get quite right to the guts of the system. And this is where we are now. So that's kind of what's happened. And then the project then ended up with somebody who took over Miocene. They were focused on South and Central America. They vended it to another group who then spun it out to us. So Rogers Creek has seen a lot of ownership, but it hasn't seen much dedicated and focused drilling. And with the project being basically our flagship project, this is the one that we want to really work on. So we're dedicated to finding out, the true story at Rogers Creek, and fingers crossed, but we've got a good sense of feeling for this one, that it does have the goods.
Okay, I appreciate that. One question, this is, it's subjective, but this is somebody asking, just you personally, what would you deem a successful drill campaign at Rogers Creek?
Yeah, well, I mean, success obviously is hitting the big one, but if we see that the chargeability anomalies contain chalcopyrite or any copper ore, whatever level it is, I think that's a great success. And the thing is that those chargeability anomalies, the red blobs that you saw there, and even the outer yellowish brown blobs, any of that could really contain copper mineralization. So ideally, it could indicate that there is a big system there. So any kind of copper mineralization is going to be a success for us.
Great, thank you. Now, you did already cover this, but I think it's always good to reiterate these kind of things and questions. Somebody asked if you intend to drill Centerfire. If those aren't aware, it's an Ontario project owned by Cascade this year.
Yeah, I certainly, it's on our radar. At Centerfire, again, it's a road access, but it's road access 12 months of the year, because it is a major route that goes through the area, through Sioux Lookout, up to the First Nations group at Lac Seul. So we could basically get in there and drill anytime this year. And we'd like to reserve a little bit of cash coming out of this flow through for our project in Ontario, and I think we can do the drilling there at a reasonable cost. We've been talking to drill contractors in that area, quite a number of them, and they're easy to access. Mob costs will be low, unit costs could be low as well. So fingers crossed we can get in there this year as well.
Great, thanks. Jumping around a bit, but I asked the questions in the order they're asked. But somebody asks, this is back to Rogers Creek, if you can provide any guidance on the expected cost per meter of this drilling campaign.
Yeah, we've started getting some quotes in from some of the drilling contractors. It's, inflation is rampant and lots of different things, including the drilling costs. So we're looking at probably unit costs of maybe $125 to $150 a meter. That's contract costs. The ancillary stuff still to work out, but if we can get everything in for 250 all in, I think we're doing quite well. So that's kind of our target. We'll see how it goes.
Great, thank you. And somebody asked why this precise size of financing.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I think if we think back to one of the first slides I showed your viewers, that we've got 33 million shares outstanding, a market cap of $1.5 to $2 million. We have to manage the dilution, and we want to be cognizant of the value that we're adding to the company. So the idea of starting with a $500,000 financing is one that we can manage for dilution wise. We can manage for spending the money in the allotted period of time. Usually that's not a problem, but you have to think about that. So it was one thing that it was a board decision to go with that. I mean, ideally, if there is a huge demand for it, we're happy to open it up for an oversubscription. So that'd be an okay situation for us if that happens. So
great, thanks. I see a couple more meeting requests have come in. Appreciate that very much. Remember, if you do want to book a meeting with Jeff, you're always welcome to either respond to the email or change your meeting request status in your profile. But I got one more question here, and I'll tell you exactly what they said, and then I can frame it a bit differently. Their precise wording was, has copper already peaked this year? I guess the way we can tackle this is, do you think that, or are you still bullish for price of copper with the remainder of 2024?
Yes, I'm quite bullish on copper and copper prices increasing. Predicting when it's going to happen and how quickly it's a bit of a crapshoot and roll the dice. But the trends, the fundamentals are all there for increased demand in copper, and therefore the increase in price. And I think we'll see that gradually rise through 2024, and then certainly through the next 2 to 3. Hold on a sec. We'll just get rid of this here. The next 2 to 3 years, I think we're going to see a good, strong increase in price and increase in demand.
Awesome. Well, Jeff, thanks so much for your time. And for those who joined, I appreciate it very much. And for those who requested a meeting, we'll get back to you by tomorrow, just to reach out to try and set those times. But please feel free, whenever you watch this recording, to go ahead and set a meeting with Jeff, and we'll get an answer for you. And of course, if you think of a question that's perfect, you don't necessarily want exactly to set a meeting, feel free to pose it afterwards. We'll make sure that the team gets back to you as soon as possible. But Jeff, I'll throw it to you for last words for what you want people to come away with from today.
Yes, thanks, Romeo, and I appreciate everybody being here, and invite people to go to our website. It's cascadecopper.com. And, if there's interest in the financing, please either book a meeting or contact me directly. I'd be happy to chat, and look forward to talking to some of you in the future. Thank you.
Jeff, everyone who joined us, thank you so much and have a great day.